in music and in Web3 and food culture and the way that we support creators, all these things right now, I think there's just a lack of education about what it means to like truly be someone who's excited to push your culture to the world. And what our project, I think I've really tried to drill down is that
welcome to our special edition of Talkback ON podcast, Web 3.0. In this series, we highlight the creators and leaders / founders that are most impactful in the Web3 space. But before we introduce you to our super special guest, please make sure you subscribe and follow us at Talkback ON for news and updates on our exclusive giveaways. And please don't forget to join us in our Discord, where you will find our hosts and guests hanging out with our community. Our circuit board today will be sponsored by NFTs4Breakfast on avoiding scams in Web 3.0. See you guys back here in a few minutes.
Hi, everyone. We are Wavy and Choi Man from NFTs4Breakfast, where we make NFTs as easy as ABCs, or at least we try to. Today's circuit board is on avoiding scams in Web 3. Scams exist both in Web 2 and Web 3, and we all get those pesky scam-likely calls on a daily basis, and we just need to learn how to navigate the scams. So today we'll go over some tips on avoiding scams in Web 3. But as always, please do your own research, and the information we provide is not financial advice. The first and most helpful way to avoid scams in Web3 is to, 1, turn off your DMs in Discord. Now, legitimate projects will never DM you about minting or send you links via DM. All minting details will be available in the Discord, most likely under the announcements or official links channel. Some of you may wonder, turn off all DMs? Now, this is highly recommended. Some scammers will DM you with similar names to mods, devs, founders of the projects, but the names can be off by one character and pretty hard to notice, so it is always best to close your DMs. Or if someone's account is compromised, they may DM you with links that can potentially drain your wallet of all your NFTs and money. Here's how you can turn off your Discord DMs.
All right, so I'm going to share my screen real quick so that we can kind of go through a walkthrough of this. Here is Discord that we have opened up here. And the best way to do or to turn off your DMs for a specific channel is first to go to this is on the desktop app, by the way, but once you're actually in one of the Discord channels, if you actually click on the channel name on the top left, there is something that's called privacy settings. It's got like a shield with a star on it. If you click on this, there is a toggle here that says allow direct messages from server members. Right now I have it turned off because I do that for all my channels, but I'll turn it on just so you can see. There's a green check mark when it's on, and there is a grayed out X when it's off. You want the grayed out X. So this is how you know that you have it all off, and it's off for pretty much all the channels that I'm part of, and that's how you do it. So let me throw this back to you, Wavy.
Awesome. Also, you want to be careful of DMs on Twitter. It is not as common, but if someone you do not know sends links, do not click on them. Even if someone you know sends you a link, just always double check with them that they actually sent you the link. It just wouldn't hurt to check, and it also adds an extra layer of security.
All right, great. So the second type of scam that we're going to cover right now are replicas of NFT projects on OpenSea or Rarible or any other secondary marketplace. Some stores will look like real ones and even have fake NFTs that look like the real ones. So in order to avoid purchasing from fake site, make sure that the store is verified, because some fake stores have a verification check marks in their logo, but it's not in the correct spot. So we're going to go and show you that right now. If I share my screen again, and I'll open up the actual OpenSea. This is the marketplace that's I would say currently is the most popular. There's a couple others, but if you check the OpenSea website and I scroll down a little bit, you can see all the projects that are here, and you can actually tell when a project is verified. Right now, the #1 project is Goblet Town, and I'll click on that, and you can see that there's a check mark here on the actual, well, right after the name, and it even has a check mark next to the account of the owner of the project. And if I go back, you can see that there's still a check mark, but right now it's right on top of the server profile picture. Now, I'm also going to look at a replica right now. So of a project called The Beings, and this is just one that I know exists. This is the true verified project of The Beings, and you can see the check mark once again right here. If you click on this tab right here, this is the replica. Now you can see there's no check mark here, and even though the banner here looks exactly the same as the original, like you can see they probably just saved the image and then just used it as their own. If you were to be, I mean, you could easily get duped and buy one of these NFTs. I don't know how much they're going for, but this is an example of a project that's not verified and is a fake, and you'd basically just be throwing your money down the drain here if you purchase one of these. So please be careful. Make sure that you are checking out the actual NFT project that you're into. Make sure that you could check through their Twitter, through their actual website. There's a lot of different ways to make sure that you're going to the correct one. Wavy, can you go through the next one of phishing scams?
Yeah, third type of scam you can encounter in Web3 is a phishing scam. We all have heard of phishing scams in real life, and phishing scams in Web3 and Web2 are the same. People will try to find out private information about you to steal something, most likely your credit card information. And in Web3, you might encounter phishing scams from fake ads, fake websites, fake links, and DMs that ask for your wallet's private 12-word security seed phrases. And when you're asked for your seed phrase, these are always scams. Never, ever give out your seed phrase to anyone. If anyone gets a hold of your seed phrase, they'll have full access to your wallet and can hack and drain your wallet again.
Yeah, that is rough. Lastly, learning to notice when a Discord or account gets hacked. Hackers these days have become very sophisticated and tricky. If you're in a community and all of a sudden they just drop a link for a mint when it's not even the mint date, that is a very, very good indication that something's wrong and that the account has been hacked. Most projects will be will stick to their roadmap. They will stick to their roadmap very closely. And if something changes, there's usually some kind of a big announcement in their Discord. And I don't think it's ever been early. I've never seen a project drop early. It's always like a delay for some reason, like something happens. But dropping a project early is a big red flag. So those are our 4 tips on how to avoid scammers and hackers on Web3. There are others that you're going to probably find, and there's going to be new ones that come out in the future. Just make sure that you're always doing your own research and finding out. And we don't want you to be afraid to be a part of this space, but just be vigilant and make sure that you are being careful with what you're doing on there. But other than that, hope you enjoyed our time here, and we'll see you guys next time. Thank you.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Welcome back, everyone. We are Talkback On Podcast, and this is episode 15, Web 3.0 edition. Let's start with our host. We have Jay Chong, superstar producer, mastermind behind artists like Asiatics and Solid. We know him as a pioneer and legend. Whoop, whoop. Kairos, award-winning multi-platinum producer and songwriter. He is also the founder of Decade Plus Music Publishing. And finally, myself, KO, Chief Audio Engineer at Kairos Music Group and Director of A&R at Decade Plus Music Publishing, where we bridge entertainment and culture worldwide. Today, we also have an honorary host that will be joining us for our Web3 series. She's one of the hosts for NFTs4Breakfast from Kairos Music Group. Please welcome VantaBlack. Woo!
Hi, everyone. Great to be on Talkback On with you. So we recently celebrated Asian American Heritage Month, and we have the perfect star guest that embodies not just Asian culture, but also women in the creative arts. She's a founder of Fortune Friends Club NFT collection, which, by the way, sold out in 10 seconds of public mint. And they have an incredible community on Twitter and Discord of over 150,000 loyal followers. Her work in Web3 has empowered Asian creators and inspired artists all over the world. So please welcome Lili, aka QueenBao.
Hello. Thanks. That was a glowing introduction.
So our first question for you is, what is your favorite food?
My favorite food. That is such a difficult question. Probably like the hardest one I ever get asked on AMAs. I think it's pretty obvious given we are a bao dumpling related. I think like xiaolongbao or like soup dumpling is probably one of my favorite dishes. But if not like Chinese food or like dumplings, I'm a big fan of like a good dry aged ribeye steak or burger.
Yeah.
For the listeners, so QueenBao is currently in Sydney, Australia. I know we're going to be discussing about AAPI, month and things like that. And I was wondering what it's like to be an Asian in Australia.
That's an interesting question. I think that for me, I had quite a unique period like during my high school phase, because I went to this thing called a selective school, which I don't know if this, I'm sure some style of this exists in the States, but it's essentially where you have to take a test to go to high school. So I actually was surrounded by like entirely Asians my entire like high school life. So from 12 to 18, I had essentially 120 out of 140 people in my grade were like Chinese or Indian. So it was quite a different experience to, I think, what a typical like student would have grown up in Australia. But yeah, I feel like I've always been supported, especially being like a majority in some sense in high school, but definitely a bit of a like ironically like a culture shock going to university and realizing that like, hey, we're not all students who focus purely on our education and like purely on trying to get good marks to be a doctor or a lawyer, and realizing that, hey, there are other people who live in Australia, which sounds so crazy to me now that I'm like reflecting back on my uni experience. But definitely like my first few days at uni, that's how I felt.
Wow. I felt kind of the same way here in California. I went to UC Irvine, and I think when I was there, I think 65% of the students were Asians. So I felt pretty much like the majority there. I understand.
Oh, wow.
We're both anteaters.
Oh, were you really? I didn't know that.
Back in 06.
Oh, wow. I was there way before that.
Is there a big Asian community in Australia then, outside of?
Yeah, for sure. Australia is also a very popular place for international students. So you'll have a lot of Southeast Asian, like East Asian, everywhere from around the world, I guess, like coming into our universities. So like Sydney Uni, where I went, University of New South Wales, like UTS, Macquarie, we have a lot of really good like universities. I'm only talking about Sydney, by the way. Anyone who's from in Perth, I'm sorry. I'm only shilling Sydney right now. But we have like quite a large Asian community. Like our Chinatown is like pretty massive. And yeah, I think like food wise, we always have like really amazing people from all over the world who like run the restaurants. So I'd say food wise, we're great. Education wise, like, yeah, we're pretty like multicultural.
Yeah.
I'm convinced I need to visit now.
Sydney's beautiful too. I think Melbourne kind of reminded me of Hong Kong too. There's a huge Asian presence over there.
Yeah. Melbourne as well. They have, if I'm not mistaken, they're definitely known to have like a very big Chinatown. But yeah, it's a city that really it's like a Hong Kong, Singapore vibe. Sydney's a little bit more open. And we have like a beautiful Darling Harbour and like Opera House, Harbour Bridge. So if you guys come, I definitely take you around.
Wow.
Down.
They have petting zoos for wallabies too. So cute.
Okay, definitely down for that.
Yeah, we can go.
Okay, so we love Fortune Friends Club and the work that you're doing in Web3 with your community. And so for those who are not familiar with Web3 or NFTs, can you please introduce Fortune Friends Club and how you got started?
Yeah, for sure. So I guess for anyone who has never heard of FFC before, we're basically a collection which celebrates Asian culture by empowering its creators. So we have 8,888 BAO NFTs in our collection. And I'd say that majority of the people who hold our NFTs are kind of dispersed around the world, but typically are people who, are Asian and are excited to put our culture on a global stage in some form, whatever that way of expressing it is, whether it's through their art, whether it's through like a product or a service that they're trying to create, whether it's just through like being passionate about wanting to tell people about our culture. That's essentially like what we stand for and the core of why I've been so excited to build FFC. And I guess taking it a few steps back to why we even launched FFC in the first place, it really was out of just like observing that the top projects on OpenSea, they were typically projects which were like apes ape derivatives. If you haven't heard of NFTs, this might not mean anything to you, but essentially like a lot of projects which centered around like prestige, I guess trying to be building like a yacht club, or there were a lot of like really awesome women projects as well, which like sponsored different women to create their own things, like get educated and things like that. But there really wasn't any project that really honed down on like what it truly means to be Asian. So I felt like there was a huge underrepresentation of Asian culture in the NFT Web3 space in general. And just nothing that also really spoke to me as trying to empower creators. A lot of things like utility were built around, trying to do future drops, future collections. But what is something that at its core actually supports people to build their education, build their careers, and understand what it's like to be effective and be able to add value in the Web3 space? So that was the, I guess, motivation behind it, and what continues to drive me and our team to keep building FFC despite like current market conditions.
Well, you kind of mentioned how there was such underrepresentation of Asians and women in NFT space. Did you face any challenges as an Asian founded team or as a woman in the space when you got started?
That's a really good question. I think the pro of starting out in NFTs is that, or even in Web3, is that you actually start off kind of a non, right? So unless you're speaking in Twitter spaces or in like a Discord community, everyone is kind of at a level playing field in terms of how you interact, because you're all on a Discord or anonymous name. I think once you start putting yourself out there, not so much from, I guess, culturally, like where I stand, but more so gender-based, I feel like it definitely changes the dynamic a bit when you go more public. I think having to present yourself in a certain way, I feel like the expectations of how like a woman has to speak versus a man has to speak on space is actually very, very different. And early days, I guess before I was titled as a project founder, it would be typical that like if I tried to speak in spaces, someone would like either interrupt, or the way that I would be talked about in other channels is very different to like a male or non-female project founder, let's just say. So there's definitely aspects of the Web3 space that I would love to help improve, just in terms of like the discussion of how women are represented in the space. Right now, I feel like, there's a very strong like simp culture with different like women's creating awesome, like undeniably like awesome DAOs. But I think the way that it presents women sometimes, the way that like other people will discuss it, is very different to the way that we want to, the way that, for instance, I would like to be viewed or respected as a founder who's trying to a real project with real utility. So yeah, there's definitely different forces at play here that I would really love to see improve in the Web3 space.
Yeah, I feel like the Web3 space is still so new that there's definite room for improvement. And can you think of any other pros and cons for beginners who are trying to get into the space?
Yeah, I think a huge pro of the Web3 space is that any resource, anyone that you wanted to talk to, anything that you wanted to learn, all of it is kind of at your fingertips. You jump on Twitter, you can discover like who are the top players here, why do they invest in certain projects, how do you invest in certain projects. People create like amazing, great content all the time, amazing threads, which also help me even understand like how to operate as a founder and managing a community. I definitely think also pros that there are so many different NFT projects for niche things that anyone is interested in. You can go down rabbit holes of things that are like super niche, and find people who are like excited about the same things as you, which doesn't always happen in a like IRL situation. So that is definitely a pro. I think the con right now is that the NFT space, especially, I'm not speaking from, Web3 entirely is still very new, but specifically NFTs, where people do have a platform and can share their ideas. There's so much going on. The market changes all the time. Like what we value as a good NFT project changes every week, depending on who launches a good project, or what price ETH is, or whether it's a free mint or like I don't know. There are so many different factors that I think as a newbie, you might come in and be like, what on earth is going on? Like, how is this thing worth 100 ETH? How is this thing worth 2 ETH? I don't know if people have like recently, I guess if you're not into NFTs, but you've maybe just like jumped across the space, there is a project called Goblin Town where literally you don't have to pay anything. I'm pretty sure that was a free mint project, and they literally
Yes.
Twitter spaces for 3 hours, just like goblin sounds, amazing performance. But, I think if I was just trying to explain to my friends or anyone who wasn't in Web3 what is going on in this space, I think it'll be very hard for a newbie to truly like what is good marketing or why is this even good marketing? I think as the space has developed more and more, I'm realizing like the bar for just getting excited and understanding for a newbie is getting higher and higher. So I think a con is that we definitely need more projects that are more friendly and like bridging someone who might just be interested but doesn't know exactly how to dabble and get scared by like really high prices or, really things that are just so out of whack to what you would normally experience in Web 2.
Yeah, I think my experience with Web3 and NFTs, like when I first got introduced to it, I was like, what is this? But then like once I started actually like getting involved in communities and like getting to know people is when I was like, oh, this space is actually really cool. And it's not just about JPEGs and it helped me diversify the people I knew too.
Yeah.
So like, I know you have a pretty diverse community. So how important is community?
Yeah, great question. I think at every NFT project's like core, community is truly the foundation of how you run, how you operate, and what makes a project successful. I think just in general, like a pro is that it's super awesome. I can travel to Singapore, I can go to Hong Kong, I can go to New York, like LA, and I know for sure that there would be a new friend that I can like have there or hang out with because, we're both a bao holder. Or, we're just super excited because we've been brought together by a shared love of food, by a shared love of just excitement around creators and a like culture that is aligned because that's what we really enforced and drilled down into the core foundation of how we built community. So I think like community is honestly the lifeblood of our project, and anything that or like the feedback, the way that we interact, all of these things are core to how our founders and how we make decisions. So yeah, I would truly say that without a awesome community, a project is not really a project anymore.
Yeah, I think that's true. The community makes such a big impact in how a project, especially after post-mint, can continue to run. Earlier, you had mentioned about how you want to push for Asian creators. And I think that's where AK Plus Music and what you're doing with your community kind of come together, is because AK Plus Music was also created to bridge the cultural gap for foreign writers and labels in Asia. So how important do you think our role as either Asian Australian or Asian American to introducing and advancing culture to the world?
Yeah, I think it's super important. I truly believe that everyone has the right to be able to be in a space where they belong, where they can find people that they can kick it with, and true friends and genuine friendships that they can cultivate no matter what you're passionate about. I think in music and in Web3 and food culture and the way that we support creators, all these things right now, I think there's just a lack of education about what it means to like truly be someone who's excited to push your culture to the world. And what our project, I think I've really tried to drill down is that, hey, if you're Asian and you're a creator, like this is a space that welcomes you, a space that is excited to have your talent. If maybe you're not feeling like a good fit, I'm not saying that everyone should be in Web3 today.
Yeah.
If you're feeling like, your current role isn't for you, or, you've always been wondering like, how can I like expand my client base, or like, how can I really share what I'm passionate about with the world? Like we really want to be there to help you and bridge that gap into the Web3 world. Because I think that for you, if you are an Asian creator and, you want to make an impact, that this is a great platform for you to be able to like leverage. So yeah, I think we have a very important role in ensuring that people are able to feel like they belong in a space that they want to.
Just to kind of share with you my first experience with NFTs, I think I got rugged. I think I bought into a project that it was like I think they already announced that it was rugged, and I didn't know what that meant. And I bought into a project thinking that, it was a complete disaster. But I think there's a lot of good things to still talk about, in NFTs. I think, more recently I've seen just how the NFT communities actually do a lot for charity work, and they do a lot of stuff for people that are in need, especially during this time, these few years of just COVID and a lot of challenges. How has NFTs helped, I guess, in that front?
Yeah, for sure. I think what NFTs have been really great with is actually banding people around like a shared value, shared passion. So if you're investing in a project that has a like significant portion of their funds going towards like specific charities, that's something that you would have like likely conducted or identified during like your due diligence of a project, and you're buying in because you're excited about the same things. So I think in any other normal circumstance, it's actually really hard to, say, hey, I'm really excited about Asian creators and really like push for that without being aligned like financially and without being aligned or just even seeing where these projects or like people pop up. So NFTs, like immediately, if you're a holder, you're tied into knowing, hey, what is the core of what this project is trying to achieve? So I think in that sense, it's like NFT technology in general is just incredible in bringing people together around something that they're like passionate about.
So I think one of the things that drew me actually most to Fortune Friends Club was that you were providing a platform for Asian creators, because I know you said originally your background was not in the creative field. And I think a lot of us can relate to that in the sense that we're like, oh, you should be a lawyer, you should be a doctor or something like that, right?
Yeah.
So I love that you were providing the opportunity for people who weren't in the creative field to get involved in the creative field. So I know you're backing a lot of projects, and is there something that you would want to see from new Asian founders or businesses in the NFTs or in the Web3, or how you would like to see the movement in that?
Yeah. So at FFC, we've essentially like allocated part of our treasury to back Asian founders who are creating interesting, awesome things that they want to bring into the world. So for us, there was like an initial vetting process, which was the team internally, but otherwise majority of the like decision making was actually just from the community. So everyone was able to vote depending on how many BAOs they held. And that was what determined like the 5 projects that we backed in our first cohort. So I think things that we were just really looking for a passionate founder who is excited to bring their ideas to life. So we had a wide range of people. It was like 2 or 3 NFT projects. We also had one person who's doing like interior design, like decor. So he's launching his own website so he can sell like vases around the world, which is really awesome. And then we have someone who's been passionate about like also creating content, podcasts, YouTube videos, and he's trying to now build like a website to house like NFT content. So it was a little bit of honestly, we were pretty open with what product or service it was, but more so wanted to back someone who is really passionate, but may not have had the financial means to do so at the time. So yeah.
And we did a thing for Asian hate crimes. The Stop Asian Hate thing. We did an NFT, and I think there was like I forget how many. There was like I think about 50 or 60. Just prominent Asian figures in entertainment business, whatever. So we all had our little NFTs made for charity, and I think they raised about like $80,000 in a very short period of time. So that was my first experience with NFTs. To be honest, at that time, I'm like, what is that? I didn't even know what that was. For me, my personal first experience was getting my song tokenized. And, so it was sort of like before the whole term NFT came out. So one of the songs I worked on years ago got put on Binance as a token. And so, and they told me this is like the first time ever in history that's ever been done. And I was like, what did we just do? Even now I'm like, I don't really know what's exactly going on, but I go on to Binance and I see the token and people are still trading it. And, I own a portion of it. So I'm like, okay, I kind of understand it in that sense, but that was kind of like my first experience dabbling with like music and the whole blockchain thing. And the whole team that started that actually moved on to working with art, like with a lot of I guess like street artists and creative people on that side. And then they kind of left the whole music thing in the back burner, and they just kind of moved on. So originally we were going to have like about a couple hundred songs beyond Binance as a token. And ended up just that one song made it on there. Can I say the ticker, or like STYL is the token? And it's I still have it, and I check the wallet once in a while. I'm like, wow, it's worth something, right? So that was kind of like my first experience, kind of with the whole thing. I think they were a little too early though. I think they were a little too early, and they were telling me, what we did back in, I think it was like 2018 or something, 17 or something. And like, that's what's kind of like called NFTs now, or that's kind of, or very similar to what we did back then. So I was like, oh, okay. And that was done out in Taiwan. Yeah, it was a Taiwanese song or a Chinese song that got placed onto Binance. In fact, I'm going to show you the NFT.
Oh.
Well, this was for the whole Asian anti-Asian hate thing.
They like sent you an actual.
This is one of myself, and I bought one of myself just as a memorabilia. But I also have another one of I think comedian PK. Like a Korean American comedian out here in LA. And so there's like, I forget, like I think there's about 80 people on that list. And I think people were bidding on it. Right. And then so everybody was trying to top each other on the charts. And we had a ranking system going on. So it's like a little battle to the end. Yeah, it's pretty fun.
Even when I find myself explaining NFTs, it's like, it's funny because I start talking about how you have to be aware of this, you have to be aware of that, and then you have to, make sure you skip over this, and then you have to make sure you don't click on this link, and then after a while I'm going like, wait, and they're like, why am I doing this? And I'm going like, well, no, there's a lot of, good, once you get into the community, so once you get to that side, I feel like, that's where a lot of the good happens. Like, when you start finding the community and when you find a good, founder behind a project, and then you feel like you're part of something and it feels like you're moving with, the project. What would be like the easiest way to explain, kind of like that intro level of, getting into NFTs? Because I feel like there's so many people in our community that wants to try NFTs, but they're hearing a lot of things where it's almost preventing them from even trying,
Yes, this is always a tough question. And I actually find it very difficult to also explain to like my friends in person, like what is an NFT and why would you purchase one? But I usually go by the example of that, like it's essentially a membership pass or a membership token to a specific community where you receive access to like products in beta, you'll receive access to a game, you'll receive access to events. But yeah, as long as you are a holder. So that's usually like the most simple version that I go with. But I try not to like include things about how like some NFTs are like 100 ETH. I think that after that like paradigm kind of just breaks the explanation of needing a membership to something. But yeah, I think at its most basic level, I usually say it's like gated access to a specific experience.
Oh, that's the first time I heard it explained like that, and I think that's a great explanation.
In terms of the projects that you have, how is it like creatively, I guess, planned out? Because, when it comes to like working on music, we'll have ideas and just kind of references that we go along with. What are some of the, I guess, inspirations or I believe that you mentioned it's also community driven as well too. But what are some of the inspirations or thought process going into these projects?
So it's it changes all the time, actually, because initially you'll come in, like you optimize for your mint out, and then you have like specific things that you know are core. So we've always been like very sure that our vision is to celebrate Asian culture by empowering its creatives. But the way that we go about pursuing that changes depending on what feedback we get, what research we do, and like new things that we discover and learn. So things that have always been core, planning out like how we invest in creatives, whether that is like education, whether that's inspiration, whether that's capital, all those things will always be in the background and will always be building on top of those ideas. So I think in terms of how we plan for road mapping in the future and what products and services we want to launch, like what is a like ideal launch pad look like for someone who's trying to enter Web3 or build their clientele in Web3. I think for us, like low hanging fruit is actually giving a platform for these BAOs to share their ideas, share their work. So we're like developing a creator board right now. And further in the future, we understand that like, creators need a community, and not just a digital community, because Discord is one thing, but you're not going to spend like all of your time online. But what does it look like to meet other creators in physical spaces where you can hear from each other's stories, learn from each other? That's why we're like very focused on how we can launch either like a restaurant or a bar concept in Singapore, and future like expanding to areas in Australia and the States. Definitely something that like I would really like to see happen over the next year. But yeah, I think the way that we approach how we celebrate and support creators definitely changes depending on like market conditions and new learnings, but at its core we'll always have that one like North Star that's guiding us. Answers the question.
Cool. Yeah, I think that's incredible. We actually had this discussion earlier. If there's like an unknown artist, for example, and they're trying to find their footing or trying to find their place in the creative arts, how would NFTs kind of accelerate that process or, help them, in their career path?
Yeah. So if it was an unknown artist, so someone who like probably didn't have a platform before, but is already very talented and clearly could either like work somewhere as an illustrator or even just start building a community themselves. I think where NFTs are really great is it actually like celebrates people who have artistic talent. So at like the very early stages, if you're, trying to get a whitelist on a project or you're like excited about one, actually creating, I guess, like fan art to some degree and sharing that in their Discord, sharing that on your Twitter, that always gets like a lot of engagement as a first level to actually tap into a new community or build your own community. I think like next steps from that is maybe even joining a NFT project or a Web3 company in like from a creative angle. So that's something that we're trying to tackle now. If you already know about the space and you have the right skill set, like how do you actually connect yourself with a project that needs your like talent? So that's like another rung on the ladder. And then I guess the next step up from that is like once you've already built a community, you've made a name for yourself, actually, launching your own collection, because we all know the power of NFTs is like from the revenue perspective is not just the mint. Like you don't just make money from selling your art piece once, but every time somebody trades it, you also get like a percentage of royalties back. So you're essentially, it's just like an incredible model for creators who, in the past people could just right click save, but now you actually get rewarded for each time someone purchases your work. So I think, that was a full phase of how I see an artist or an unknown artist or someone who's very talented actually entering the space and being able to make a name for themselves and make a living out of Web3. But that's like my persona of how I see people flowing through the space.
That's incredible.
Since a lot of people who will be watching this are going to probably be new to NFTs, I thought we could go over some terms that we have mentioned that they might not know. Like I know, Kairos, you mentioned the word rugged. I'm sure people who haven't experienced it in the NFT space don't know what that is. Do you kind of want to go over what that means? Or I can do it.
Well, I can do it because I was rugged. It means that you were scammed. And it's that's something that we try to avoid. And a lot of times a really good collection or a project helps the community to avoid that. And I think FFC has done a great job of that, I've mentioned this to Lili before, but I'm actually an FFC holder, there's a lot of, I've definitely felt that, the whole project itself is really looking out for the community, and it's not just driving the community to do, more things in the space, but to also take care of each other, like almost kind of like it really feels like a family, and I think that's something that I really appreciate about a project in a community like FFC.
It's like investing into a company and then showing up to work and then there's nobody in the office, no furniture. Is that kind of like being rugged? Right?
Yeah.
Right? Yeah. A lot of that happen in real life.
And I also want to mention that for any project that you get involved in, to do your own research and not just trust what other people are saying.
Yeah, so one of the projects I actually really wanted to try. So during the pandemic, obviously, like everybody was on Clubhouse, just to talk to people. Right?
Yeah.
Right? Just to make sure there's civilization out there. One of the big topic was NFTs, obviously, right? So there's, rooms after rooms in Clubhouse talking about NFTs. So I just happened to be in one of those rooms and, they were doing like an NFT drop. And it was this DJ from Taiwan. And it was sort of a major drop. This guy named DJ Kaku. And so it was basically a collab between like a little like a video piece, and he did the music for it, and it was a collaboration between himself and an artist. And so right afterwards we got connected. So DJ Kaku was like, hey, you want to do a drop, and I could help you with it, etc. So like initially I was like, wow, I would love to put music to some of these videos or artwork and possibly NFT it as a collaboration, right? So actually, there's a song that I actually dropped during the pandemic, and that was originally supposed to be an NFT project. And I really wanted to kind of do a collab with like a pro skater, and do a video of him skating and with my music playing in the background. And it was supposed to be like a collab thing. But of course, like the whole prep thing was like there's a lot of stuff. So like you said, you got to offer like maybe like a, like a meet up in person, or invite them to an event. So if you're like a musician, maybe you invite people to your show and do like one-on-one meet and greet in the back, and free merch and all that stuff. So and you're supposed to pick like a charity of your choice and kind of make it into a cause. So and all that stuff. And it was like, there was a lot of things, at play. And I was like, oh my God, it was really overwhelming. So I was like, okay, you know what? I'll pass on it. So I just released the music on its own. But I eventually I do really want to do something like that where, I want to collab with like a visual artist and do music, with it. And like, what's like the best way to like do something like that in that NFT space? Because I know a lot of our listeners or viewers are musicians, and they're like, hey, they're probably thinking the same thing. How do we get involved in the whole NFT thing? And it's really I think some of the best thing to do is to collab with artists, like, and with visuals and audio, right? So
I think you need to, the first step would be to find an artist that you vibe with really well, who kind of has like the same vision of where you want the project to go. Because I know there have been recent drops of their like 5 to 10 second like clips of like an animated art piece, and it has music with it. And the music is unique to the NFTs. So I think you would first need to find like an artist that you can really be on the same page with and how you want the project to go. That would be step one.
There's like consulting companies that actually like facilitate this for you, like set up the whole campaign for you and set up a room in Clubhouse and actually start the auction and do all that stuff. What do you think? What's your thought on that whole side of the NFT business?
So I think, from answering the question before, I totally agree with Vanta in terms of having I think what I've seen other artists do, they would have their 3-minute song collection, but they would break it up into 10-second snippets. So you'd have, I have no idea how many that would be. We say you have 1,000 NFTs at 2 seconds or 5 seconds. And it would be essentially what you would expect your album art to be. So maybe your album art featured on the front, but it's a 5-second audio clip as well. So you're purchasing still a unique NFT within that has specific song snippets. And the way that utility is provided is essentially it's essentially like concert tickets, but the premium tier. So you'd have your normal concert tickets where you have GA, general seating, and then you have front row seats, and then you have VIP, and then you have NFT level, which is, VIP plus free merch plus free whatever you want to add on top of it. But yeah, it's essentially the next level of what your existing tiers are. And I think in terms of NFT studios, I don't know of any specifically that are incredible, but I think that, so I'm not shilling a specific one, but I think for anyone who is, not technical or hasn't got any knowledge of what smart contract deployment actually looks like, it makes a lot of sense to hire a studio. But I think just being careful with how you handle the royalty split or the mint split. There's no standard from what I'm aware of, at what percentages and, equity shares are normal. So I think just being careful that you do your research, you reach out to a lot of different providers and understand how they can help you and what the difference is. I'm more than happy to help if this is something you're really interested in. Just identifying what is a good deal and what is something that, you might not actually favor you guys. But yeah, I think it's definitely a difficult space because it's very opaque for anyone who is, especially in the launching process, for someone who's not technical, it's very hard to understand what's going on in the back end.
Right. Yeah. And so, we talked about just how, NFTs have kind of provided this new avenue of career paths and just, new way to just really find, the creative art space to be more interesting, and more dynamic. And so, I've read somewhere that you actually quit your job to pursue this full time. What actually was behind that thought process? And I know that you actually have you have an incredible community and collection altogether. But what was kind of the driving piece that made that decision move forward?
Yeah, so I will just say as a disclaimer that Canva, if anyone is a Canva user, that it is an incredible product. I love the company, and anyone who wants to work.
I love Canva.
Yeah, I also love Canva, and it was a perfect role for me because it was the intersection of tech design, and they're a visual communication product, which is something that I just have been very passionate about throughout just my career so far. But I think even when I started at Canva, I knew that I was always looking for something that I could think of or ideate from 0 to 1, something that was my own, that I was very passionate about. At the end of the day, when you work at a larger company where there's thousands of people, you're building someone else's dream, and also a very, very small fraction of it. So if I, found something that I thought if I found something that was sustainable, something that, would have at least enough legs for me to last a year without a normal full-time salary, then it was worthwhile, especially if it was celebrating Asian culture, things that have been very close to my heart and from a very young age. So I think for me, it was just once we minted out, it was kind of a no-brainer. That was honestly the point of differentiation. If we sell out our project, or at least do a decent mint during our minting period, then I would have resigned. So essentially the day after I put in my resignation. So
wow.
Yeah, I mean, it's pretty incredible, especially, it's trending on OpenSea's, secondary markets like OpenSea. So it's just to see your collection go out, sell out that quickly. And yeah, that was really, really amazing. Yeah, so I think, for any newcomers into the space, it's really good for you know, a lot of the information that we talked about today, for them to really just review, even just, you know, if they were to even go back, you know, on just the earlier conversation, there's a lot of good pieces there where, you know, it's going to help them bridge, and maybe it's not all that scary. You know, maybe it's not as crazy as it seems, or you know, just as we talk about just more of the more in-depth features of NFTs. So, you know, I definitely want to thank you so much, you know, for you know, sharing a lot of your knowledge and your experience in the space, because, you know, there's so much that we can do with NFTs. You know, I feel like there's so much we can share, and going back to the whole idea of community, you know, that's something that we value a lot here, you know, with Talkback On podcast. Is there something that you want to plug or share just with the world, or just even just talk about something that you're doing with, you know, FFC?
Yeah, of course. I think the main thing that I would love to share that we're going to be working on soon is our creative board. So that is anyone who is a 2D illustrator, animator, product designer, graphic designer, basically anyone in our community is going to like just a platform for everyone to share their current work. So if anyone is interested in like, you know, working with these awesome creatives or interested in listing their work and having their portfolio on our website, I would love to chat. But yeah, otherwise, you know, FFC's Twitter is like Fortune Friends _. QueenBao's Twitter is QueenBao_. And we'd love to see you in our Twitter, Discord, or any of our IRL events. Yeah.
Awesome. Vanta, is there something that you want to plug or mention?
Follow NFTs4Breakfast. We introduce NFTs in the Web3 space for beginners in the space. So if you guys have any questions about the space, come find us. For NFT4Breakfast.
Yeah, and you know, us here at Talkback On podcast, we also want to, you know, share with you, you know, with your community, just some of the things that we do for our community, which is, you know, we provide mentorship, one-on-one mentorship, and we have keynote sessions that provide some of the more, you know, inside, in-depth look into just the creative process behind, you know, music, creating music, K-pop, and a lot of the different things. And I think Vanta also wants to share something with your community as well. Do you want to?
Yeah, if any of you guys are interested in K-pop, I'm not sure if you guys are B2B fans, but I have some signed CDs that I would like to give away to your community.
Yay! That's awesome.
Hey.
They should NFT that.
Yeah. So yeah, thank you so much. Really appreciate your time and really just, you know, sharing your knowledge with our community and just everyone that's watching this. You know, I know how important this time is for creatives, you know, and it's just seeing what NFT is doing for creatives today and through Web3 and through NFTs, it's really opening up opportunities. Of course, you know, we talked about some of the fear that are attached to entering the space, but you know, I think you know, I'm really glad that, you know, we did get to talk about just some of the positive note and the things that are happening that are really helping other people, you know, during this time. So yeah, thank you so much for your time. And definitely, you know, it's you know, I think it's a good time to get into FFC if you haven't, and check them out, because that community is awesome, you know, and I still hold mine. I still have mine, and you know, I don't plan on letting go of that anytime. So, yeah, thank you so much, and you know, hope you guys join us next time.
Yeah.
All right.